Hi again. I wanted to do another video. I wish I can do longer videos, but I'm an older guy and don't know too much about that. So I would like to talk about the death of George Floyd because George Floyd means a lot to me as a black man. When I saw the video of George Floyd, I saw myself. I saw myself when I saw the video of the death of George Floyd. And there are a lot of things that me and George Floyd have in common. And, I think there are a lot of right wing people that would say, oh, George Floyd was a drug addict. And, the autopsy report said that he had fentanyl in his system and he had meth in his system. What if George Floyd was a white girl? What if George Floyd was a beautiful, blonde haired, blue eyed white girl? And what if she had fentanyl in her system? Now, white people do drugs, you know, and, Fox News is not going to admit that white people do drugs. Oh my God, white people doing drugs. I've done drugs in front of with white people. I'm an older guy, so I lived in a politically incorrect generation in the late 70s, early 80s, and I did drugs with white boys. White boys who were into music groups like Judas Priest and heavy metal groups, of the hair bands of the 1980s. I did drugs with white boys and Native American kids. I've been there. I know that white people do drugs because I was there. I was there. I was the only black guy in that group that did drugs with white boys. So there are white people that do drugs. So don't give me that Fox News holier than thou bullshit that white people don't do drugs. So what if this beautiful white girl that they stopped, other than George Floyd, blonde hair, blue eyed, would they treat that white girl the same way that they treated George Floyd? Would they put a knee to that white girl's neck the way they put the knee to George Floyd's neck? Would that white girl still be alive? And this you got to take in consideration as a black man. Is that, yeah, it's wrong to do drugs. I agree, it's wrong to do drugs. But if you're a grown man, if you're a grown woman, that's your business. That's your business. George Floyd didn't get stopped for doing drugs. He got stopped for handing out a phony $20 bill that they had to prove that it was phony in the first place. And George Floyd's human rights was taken away from him when, he was killed. But, the main thing I wanted to talk about George Floyd is that when I saw the video of when they tried to violently push George Floyd in the back seat of the police car, I noticed that George Floyd was saying that he had an anxiety attack. And I want to tell you a personal story. I suffer from chronic depression and anxiety disorder. And so this really hits home to me, not just as a black man, but as a black man who has, chronic depression and anxiety disorder. And I think George Floyd had a legitimate anxiety attack. And when you have an anxiety attack, you can't really breathe, and you have dizziness, and you just feel sick to your stomach and this and that. And what really works when you have an anxiety attack, and personally, I usually have anxiety attacks when I walk on bridges. I know it's funny, but when I walk on bridges, I feel like I'm going to fall. I feel like and what I do is it's an anxiety attack. I breathe, and it takes time. You breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. But if these police have the sensitivity towards George Floyd, and not just being a black man and him on drugs and this and that. Now, mind you, they stopped George Floyd on an alleged $20 bill, alleged phony $20 bill. They didn't stop George Floyd for, they found drugs in his car and he's head of a Dillinger-esque type group of people. No, George Floyd was a middle-aged black man. And it was they stopped him originally because of a phony $20 bill. They did. They stopped him and the thing is that he had a right to a lawyer and he had the right to see a judge. He had a right to a lawyer and see a judge. And the judge or the jury have a right to deal with that. And he had a right as an American citizen to have a lawyer and to have professional people look at that $20 bill. And I've always wondered, was that $20 bill really phony? I've always wondered that. I mean, you stopped the guy and you killed him, but I've always wondered if that $20 bill was a phony to begin with. And, it takes a long time to kind of prove that. You need someone professional to look at the $20 bill. Is it a phony? Da-da-da-da-da-da. And, you can't just grab someone out of their car and just put a knee to his neck. Now, what police do is that they felt that George Floyd was disrespecting the police and the police authority because George Floyd didn't hurriedly go into the back seat of the police car. But I think George Floyd had a legitimate anxiety attack, which, if you look at the video, you'd see it. You'd hear him saying that he's having an anxiety attack, he can't breathe, and so on. And I think police, they do a lot. I admit that police do a lot. And I think we need to, and it might sound radical to a lot of middle-class white people who live in the suburbs, but I think we do need to defund the police. I think we do need to defund the police. I think we do need the police are getting federal funds every year. They're getting thousands and thousands of dollars, or millions and millions of dollars, whatever, of federal funds from the government. Those funds could go to programs that could get people out of poverty. These funds could go to programs that could make the police their job easier. I don't think it's radical. I don't think it's radical to defund the police for 2 years and put money into programs that make police their job easier, and maybe have a psychiatrist go with the police and calm George Floyd down, because George Floyd was a human being. George Floyd is a person. And as a black man, there have been many George Floyds that have died in the hands of police officers before the death of George Floyd and even after the death of George Floyd. There have been many people that look like me that have died in the hands of police because they don't care. They have this macho John Wayne view that, you're black, we don't care about you being black. You're Mexican, we don't care about you being Mexican. You're a person of color, we don't care about you being, a person of color. You're a poor person. We don't give a damn about you being poor or being a hippie or a punk rocker or anybody that they feel that is a threat to their world. And people of color are a threat to a police officer's way of life. They feel, police officers do have a very conservative way of life. And they feel that people of color, are basically a threat. to their way of life. And I think that's, something we need to do is defund the police for a couple years and to put the money into and the thing is police are never going to go away. They got enough money from the federal government through many years, that they got enough money through the federal government and the state government to last forever. So they're not going to lose any money. But to put together modern programs that benefit us all, to put money into housing, to jobs, to things that would make sure that crime will go down. Reason why people commit crime is because of unemployment, because of poverty. That's why people commit crime. And I'm pretty sure George Floyd, and I don't mean to put words in his mouth, but I'm pretty sure that the day George Floyd died, he probably lost his job. He got COVID. And, as a black man, I'm thinking as a black man, that he got COVID, he lost his job, like a lot of other people lost his job. You got to understand the May Day was a holiday. It was a holiday season. There were a lot of people drinking and having fun and everything. And when you lose your job, I don't know how they get money to get drugs or alcohol, but they do. And they go out and they try to avoid the problems that they have at home and to avoid it by doing drugs, which is the wrong thing to do. But when you have a liquor store and a bar and a cash checking place in every part of your community, eventually you're going to walk into that liquor store. Eventually you're going to walk into that bar and you're going to have a beer, and it's going to consume you because you don't want to go home too early because you feel like a failure with your family. And there are a lot of people like that of all races that have lost their jobs, especially during COVID, and they're trying to run away from their problems. And George Floyd was like any other person, American person, trying to run away from his problems by doing drugs. But maybe he should have drank a beer. Maybe he should have drank a beer rather than doing fentanyl. You gotta understand, Prince, the great rock star Prince, died of fentanyl, thinking it was Vicodin. But that's something that really bothers me about brother George Floyd is he is a black man like me. He's a black man like me. And it really hits home to me, as a black man. So that's the thing when you vote, is you take, you have empathy towards people who are different when you vote. You don't vote out of fear. You don't vote out of anger. You vote out of empathy for people that aren't like you. So, when you vote for George Floyd, vote for Ginsburg, who died, Supreme Court Judge Ginsburg. My time is up, and I hope I can see you in the future, and hope you had a nice, you are having a nice weekend. Thanks a lot.